Good afternoon. Former President Jacob Zuma's legal representative insists that veteran prosecutor Billy Downer must be removed from the Zuma Corruption Trial. Advocate Dali Mpofu says Downer is biased. Today marks day 2 of Zuma's special plea hearing in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. The state is expected to conclude its arguments. Well, everything has concluded today in as far as their application is concerned. Let me take you to ENCA's Siphamandla Goge, who has been following proceedings, and let's talk to him now. And Siphamandla, then, the arguments concluding today with a reply from Advocate Dali Mpofu to what was presented by Pietermaritzburg on behalf of the NPA. Extensive representations, but let's start right at the end there. The matter now being stood over for judgment by Judge Piet Koen, specifically on this question of whether or not Billy Downer should be removed from the case, and also whether or not Jacob Zuma should be acquitted.
Indeed. So the 26th of October, that's when we are likely to get this judgment handed down on the special plea hearing and application by former President Jacob Zuma to have this state lead prosecutor, Advocate Billy Downer, being removed from prosecuting this matter. However, let me stress that the 26th of October is just a holding date for now. The context to it was that Judge Piet Koen asked all parties to just have a discussion around a possible proposed date that can be suitable for the judgment to be handed down. He said he needs about 4 weeks to go through the arguments and what has been presented to him so that he can draft that judgment, which he said he hopes that in 4 weeks' time it will be ready. So that date of the 26th of October could still change depending on how he drafts this judgment, but he said he hopes by then he will be ready to hand down the judgment on this application to have Billy Downer being removed from prosecuting this matter. The gist of the argument by former President Jacob Zuma's legal team is that they allege that Advocate Billy Downer is biased in this matter. They say he has been engaged in what they allege to be misconduct. They say he's got personal vendetta against the former president, so therefore he will not be able to prosecute this matter fairly, and that will be injustice to the former president. If we do have bites to last season, we can take a listen to what Advocate Dali Mpofu had to say, but if we don't, I can tell you that that was the gist of that argument.
No court has determined this issue by conducting an evidentiary hearing to determine the scope of political interference and whether such interference violated my right to a fair trial. I skip a sentence and then the prosecutor must present the evidence of Messrs. Hofmeyer, Mshe, of political meddling. It must, at the same time, present the evidence of Messrs. Nguka, McCarthy, and Pacoli, persons who potentially committed criminal acts in my prosecution. So Mr. Downer must firstly be called for interrogation, and then Mr. Downer, the prosecutor, must call all of these other people so that Mr. Zuma can cross-examine them. And then he adds, it's clearly untenable for a prosecutor who's shown a tendency to cover up criminal wrongdoing involving political interference and involvement in foreign spies in my prosecution.
All right, so that was Pietermaritzburg a bit earlier on there, Siphamandla. But turning to what Dali Mpofu had to say in response to that, in replication to what Pietermaritzburg had said, a big complaint coming out from former President Jacob Zuma on 2 matters. One being what they are saying are further leaks to journalists, and specifically particularly unhappy with the fact that they're saying all right, I see Siphamandla has spotted Dali Mpofu. Let's see if he can get a word from him. Let's take a listen.
That you put up a brave case. Are you hopeful that you will emerge victorious, Mr. Mpofu?
No, I'm not allowed to speak to the media about my own cases.
No, but the way you've presented, are you hopeful that you were able to put up a brave case?
Are you hopeful?
Well, it's not for me to be hopeful, it's for you. Well, that's Advocate Dali Mpofu there. You'll have to excuse me. He's leaving the court precinct here as he is taking a walk now. But anyway, he is not telling us whether he is hopeful or not. But anyway, he's argued that former President Jacob Zuma is not really happy with the way his confidential information has been leaked to the media. In fact, he registered to Judge Bidkun to say, listen, the former president has asked me to register with this court specifically to say his personal, private, confidential information, the details about his ailment have been leaked and shared with the media. That is a violation of his privacy, and he is really hurt by that. And, you know, going at lengths to try and say, in the spirit of Ubuntu, you wouldn't disclose what people suffer from as we try to check who else is leaving this court precedent. But let me tell you that former President Jacob Zuma, according to Dali Mpofu, is really not okay with what has happened here. Dali Mpofu telling the court that, well, for all we know, the former president is suffering from a condition which threatens his life. To have that splashed out in the media violates his privacy, and those who are close to him would have read about that in the media, and that is unfair. So that is the point that he was registering about this matter. We know that they have written a complaint to the office of the president about the conduct of the NPA or prosecutions here. They allege that Billy Downer was one of those who is alleged to have leaked that. It's something that the state has dismissed, of course.
Yeah, in fact, for further context, then Siphamandla, let's add that, yes.
Yeah, I think I've got Mr. Mzwanele Manye here. He speaks for the Jacob Zuma Foundation to us. We've just hijacked him. He was about to leave now, so I hope his audio is sorted. Babu Manye, thank you very much for your time. Let's talk about the proceedings as the foundation. Are you happy? Have you spoken to the former president? His lawyer has said he's hurt with what has happened in terms of his medical records being leaked.
Yeah, no, President Zuma is very happy with the performance of his team, starting from yesterday when his team deflected Downer's team when they were trying to bring in medical issues, medical records which did not arise, because anything to do with medical records was in the instance of a postponement being sought. So in the absence of a postponement, there was no reason why yesterday we had to waste court's time, a whole morning wasted on an argument that should not have even started as it was. So he was happy that they managed to deflect that and get to the plea and so on. In the plea today, I think the important thing that the team made is to make it clear what their actual case is all about. They quoted a whole range of case laws into this to make their point, but importantly, they also dealt with the denial of the leak. And the important thing about the denial of the leak is that they made a point to say, in their own version, the NPA says they gave out an unsigned document. If a document is unsigned, that document is not public.
But the argument was that it's a public document. You know, the media has a right to get that. It's a court document. That's what they said.
No, they gave an unsigned document. It becomes public once it's got a stamp of the registrar. In the absence of the stamp of the registrar, as an unsigned document is not public. Okay. And information in there was also marked confidential, as it were. And even furthermore, they even say to the journal, they tell the journal when to publish. Okay. In other words, they've even coached the journal, which is very unethical.
Okay, let's come back to the issue of the former president and his health status. We had arguments inside court, but how is the former president, Mr. Manya? Are you able to share with our viewers?
President Zuma continues to be unwell, continues to cope with the situation, but he's aware of what is happening, and he keeps making his input. As it were, the one input that he has made very clear, he has instructed his team that this issue of leaking of his medical records, for him it's so serious that if they don't deal with it in a satisfactory manner, he has instructed his attorneys, his lawyers to say they must open a criminal case on this matter. So that's the next big thing for us, is to look as to how this matter is being resolved. We hope the Ramaphosa investigation is going to bear fruit. Otherwise, he's opening a criminal case.
We don't have time. Few seconds. Do you have any idea when is he going to be discharged from hospital? I know you are not a medical doctor. Yeah. When is he likely going to be discharged from hospital? Do you know?
I do know, but it's not public information.
Baba, thank you very much for your time. That is Mzwanele Manye, who speaks for the Jacob Zuma Foundation to Lasizwe, as we've been trying to get more reaction from those who had attended the court proceedings today.
All right, Siphamandla, I've got to thank you for that. That's ENCA's senior journalist, Siphamandla Goge, there, giving you a sense and a wrap of what has transpired in court on the second day of argument on the special plea under Section 106(1)(h) of the Criminal Procedure Act.